at first I thought, I'm dead. You know, it was the first thought that came to my mind. And then I thought, no, I'm not even hit. And then I thought, oh man, I am hit.
Welcome to Coach Soul, the podcast where we explore therapeutic ways to the best versions of ourselves. I'm your host, Steve Hudgens. I'm a licensed professional counselor dedicated to helping you navigate life's challenges. In each uplifting episode, we'll discuss mental health, relationships, self-care, emotional well-being, and personal growth. Join me and with my co-host, Kenya Evelyn, a therapeutic life coach, where sometimes we'll even welcome special guests to our show that share their experience and expertise. So let's embark on this transformative path together and discover a healthier and happier you. Hey, welcome back to Coach Soul. What an honor and privilege to have Keith Cole as our guest today. Keith, welcome to our show, and would love to introduce yourself and give us a little snippet of who you are.
Well, thank you, Dr. Hodges. It's a privilege to be on your program. Thank you for inviting me. I am a United States Marine Corps combat veteran. I was a machine gunner in Vietnam, and I am a retired CPA at the moment, and I am the author of Burnout, God's Recovery Plan.
Well, tomorrow, it's going to be 4th of July. We're airing this on July the 3rd. And as a military veteran myself, I did 8 years in the Army. I did telecommunications. I did 4 years active duty, 4 years reserves and criminal investigations. And so I had gotten out during a time that they were going to send my unit. The active duty was I sent my unit to Iraq, and it was we were fortunate that we had everything loaded, and our company commander was pregnant and somehow got the orders changed through the senator, and they were able to get that changed, so I didn't go. But the second time around that I got out, when I was in criminal investigations here in Oklahoma, I was getting out because of a divorce that I was going through, and they were sending my unit to Bosnia at the time. And so, I didn't see the combat like you did. So, Keith, when you think about here you are, you went into the Marine Corps. Was that by choice? What was that about going into the Marine Corps at this time?
Well, as a kid, I have 3 older brothers that were in the Marines. But my dream was always I was going to become a Methodist minister. And as I grew up, and I used to play minister, I would preach to my imaginary congregation on the stairway that led to the upstairs of our house. And, sometimes people talk in church. And so sometimes I'd have to cause a couple of them out to settle down while I'm preaching. But as time went on and I was a senior in high school, then my dad died. Mm. My dad was a railroader, been a railroader his whole life. He was from 17 to 52 when he died. And he was very strong, much stronger than me, bigger person than me physically. And so it couldn't have possibly been his fault that he had the stroke and died. And so I blamed God. And when I blamed God, I was totally rebellious and acted up quite a bit the rest of my senior year, and finally graduated and enlisted into the Marine Corps.
I mean, Keith, you went from one extreme to the other. And it's like, okay, are we just going to take out our anger out on the enemy, so to speak, because of what you've been through? And that's tough for any parent to die. My father was 84, passed away last year in October 2025. And I was shocked that he made it that far. But here you are at this young of an age. I can't imagine what was going through your mind at that time. Explain some of that.
Well, it definitely was totally selfish. I gave no thought. I had a younger brother, sister at the time, quite a bit younger than me, and of course my mother. Uh, but I actually had no concern for their feelings at all. It was all me, um, and I was just grief, of course, very sad, but really angry.
Sure.
And and I thought the best way to handle that anger was to become a Marine. I knew Vietnam War was going on. You know, you read about it every day in the newspaper,
Right.
see it on television, and I thought that would be good. So I perhaps not out of patriotism, but just out of anger at that particular time, and certainly totally selfish.
Did you feel like the Marine Corps helped you to resolve that anger when you went in?
It helped me direct it.
Okay.
Yeah, certainly did. I had three older brothers that had been Marines, and which was interesting because I planned on not going to Marines. I was going to be a minister, and so I thought, well, what I could do to appease my older brothers, I could go into the Navy as a chaplain and get assigned to the Marine Corps, because Marines don't have chaplains. They don't have the corpsman, or in the Army we call the medic, but in the Navy it's corpsman, and the Navy corpsman is assigned to the Marines, as the chaplain would be as well. And so so I had that planned out to keep my brothers at a bay. but the once my dad died, that was it. That squashed that idea.
So you go into the Marine Corps. Marines are totally different, built a different machine. You guys are a killing machine. Army, we also go in, but it's a different, just different. My father served as Air Force, but he was enlisted in the security police, and he went to Thailand. He didn't go to Vietnam, but then his brother served in the Marine Corps. And it's two differences between the two of them. My uncle will not talk about Vietnam whatsoever. But what is causing you, Keith? I mean, we got 250 years of celebration of freedom going on. And I can't help but think, Marine Corps? How long did you serve in the Marine Corps? And what happened to you in Vietnam, if you're able to talk about that?
Well, in Vietnam, I was there for 6 months, and we had, quite a few battles, but I was never wounded until 6 months. And then it seemed like every other month I was getting wounded. And so I was wounded on 3 different occasions. And the third time, the first time I was in a hospital ship, second time I was in a field hospital, and then the third time I was medevaced home, and I was in the Navy hospital for several months.
So the first time you were wounded was it you were in conflict at that time with the enemy there?
We were on a patrol, and we set up a perimeter in the jungle, and the squad I was attached. I was a machine gunner, so I was attached to a squad, and we were sent out to just do a little recon to find a place to set up an ambush for that night. And as we were looking for a place to set up an ambush, we got ambushed.
Oh, wow.
And so we had mortar rounds started coming in, and on right where we were. So of course we all hit the deck, and I was behind a kind of dilapidated rice Patty Dyke. And so it was, pretty old and unused for a long time. And so I think about, half my body was sticking above the dike. It wasn't doing a whole lot. And I could hear the stepping of the mortars just as they stepped, and they were coming closer. And and, and the last one I heard was very close, and it just sprayed my body with shrapnel. So I was wearing a flak jacket, but I was shot, and part of it went into the back of my head and my hip and leg, and then so, which was very strange. At first I thought I'm dead. It was the first thought that came to my mind, and then I thought, no, I'm not even hit, and then I thought, oh man, I am hit. So the corpsman came over. He started to patch me up in some of the spots, but then a couple other Marines helped me get back to our base camp. Then I was meted back from there, and I went to the ship hospital.
When you think about what you just went through and described, Keith, what is it that here you are, you're angry, you go to the Marine Corps, they redirect it, you're in combat, you're near death. Did anything come to mind at that time frame of, maybe I made a mistake, maybe I don't need to be angry with God because he saved my life? I mean, what was going through that piece of your mind?
Well, it wasn't at that particular time, but it was just shortly before that, and we were aboard ship, and we made 2 beach landings. So when we made the beach landing, which was funny because we trained by getting on an Amtrak, an amphibious tractor, which would take us to the shore, to the beach, and then it opens up and you run out. But we practiced that way, but then we went ashore by helicopter. And so not knowing whether or not we're going to have hostile fire on that landing or not, helicopters wouldn't land. They just opened up the door for us to jump. And so it's like I'm carrying almost my weight, I guess, with the machine gun and several 100 rounds of ammo and grenades, canteens, flak jackets, E-tool. I'm weighted down. And you want me to jump where? but so we, on the second landing, neither landing we had any hostile fire though. But then we moved in more towards the center, and we got so far, and we set up a perimeter. We're very close to DMZ. My whole tour was close to DMZ. It's an area, it's a 54 square mile called Leatherneck Square. And it was a very active square. But so we set up the perimeter, and I'm digging the fighting hole for the night, and I hit water. And so, I probably cussed. But about that same time, now it's getting to be close to dusk, and so about that time, artillery started coming in. This wasn't like the mortar rounds I was hit the first time I was shot, but this is this is big stuff. And so when that comes in and it lands next to you or near you, it sounds like freight trains are crashing into each other or something. Very loud. And but when I was digging that hole, as that water started to come in, and then the artillery started, I was smoking a cigarette, which I started smoking after my dad died. Whatever I could do to rebel, I did. And I was sitting in a snack bar in our hometown, and we're sitting there and we're smoking and bragging, of course, as a stupid teenage kid might do. And that probably, you're talking about probably the last smoke I blow out, but probably when I die, my last breath will probably be blowing out smoke, bragging about how much I could smoke. And that thought came back to me as I was smoking, and that artillery came in. And I couldn't clear my lungs fast enough to get all the smoke out. Mm. And that was the first time I prayed again. And I asked God to forgive me and to help me through this artillery barrage. So that was the first change. It didn't always last, but in the heat of the moment, I did return to God for that moment.
I mean, Keith, when you think about those who've gone through Vietnam, they don't want to tell stories. They don't want to talk about stories. What is it that just the bravery of what you're discussing versus somebody that doesn't want to talk about it? Like my uncle who did go as a Marine to Vietnam, saw some horrible things. I do remember that being at we called her Granny because she had a farm, and upstairs was where my father and his brother would sleep when they were younger. Mm-hmm. And I had gotten into the closet one day and opened up a shoebox, and there were some bad photos from Vietnam.
Sure.
I can't imagine the turmoil, the things that you guys went through. What is it that causes one person not to say anything, but here you are talking as if it was just yesterday?
My wife asked me when she read the book, she said, "It's so long ago. How can you remember so vividly?" I said, it's like a television show in my mind, right? I mean, it's there. It just doesn't go away.
But you're talking about it.
I've always talked a little bit about some of the things through the book. I talk a lot more. But I was hoping that if I talk, when I was much younger, I would talk about it. And to me, it felt as though that was therapy. That I could express some of those things. A lot of funny things happened too, and that's I try to tell my family because they watched the whole time I'm in Vietnam. They're watching television news, and they would see Marines all the time in combat on television, and so my mother didn't know whether I'm alive or dead during that, and right. So but for me, it wasn't the 24/7 that you'd see on television, right? I mean, I knew when to worry, when not to worry, and so part of the thing was I would talk to my brothers, sisters, somewhat about it to a certain degree. Tell them, you're worried for nothing about me. Of course, it wasn't for nothing, but it was, just saying everything's cool. But it's such a difference of being there and then having your family sit at home waiting on you.
When you think about it, here you are. We think about our celebration of 250 years tomorrow. A celebration of freedom. But Keith, you're in this Marine Corps and you're battling, and it's not for our country per se; it's for another country and their freedom. How does that sit with you, knowing that you went and you fought on another soil to free a country from communism?
Very proud of what I did. I was a United States Marine Corps combat machine gunner, and I'm very proud of that.
What is that gives you the proudness, Keith? Because oftentimes, our listeners, viewers are like, well, wait a minute. You're angry at God. You go into the Marine Corps. You almost die. You pray to God. You're a machine gunner. But wait a minute. If you're a believer in God, why aren't you like Private Doss, who's based on a true story of where he was a conscientious objector, went into that territory and did not carry a weapon. He was a combat medic at the time. What's the difference?
When I was in the hospital after I came home from Vietnam, there was a fella there who was a conscientious objector that worked in the hospital. And so I talked to him a couple times, and the whole, I thought, I am glad I'm not you. That was my feeling as a 19 or 20-year-old or something. But sure. I'm very proud I was a Marine. I'm glad that I was. After years after I got out of the Marines, I have kind of lost count how many nephews and great nephews that I have that were, and many still are, in the Marines.
Marine Corps, it holds a special place. There's something about the select, the few, that makes you proud. Serving in the Army, I was proud in serving the Army as well, and being able to provide communications. I happened to get into right when Iraq was coming down, but there was still turmoil. And so the Iraqi war was starting to come to an end, so to speak, but not really an end. But by the time I got out, Murrah building in Oklahoma City went off. I was in Fort Hood. I was stationed down there with Triple Threat, which is their major communications unit down there. But you are a brother. It doesn't matter what branch we served in. My mom's brother served in the Navy. He was a naval officer. So we've had all branches except for Coast Guard, and my son went into the Army as well. I'm very proud of his service to our country. When you think about freedom, it does come at a price, Keith. And I can't imagine, here you are, you got your comrades around you. It doesn't sound like you came out bitter. I mean, surely you've lost comrades, your brothers in arms there in Vietnam.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. That, but I spoke earlier about when my fighting hole filled up with water during that artillery attack. Around hit the fighting hole just off to my right. It was a direct hit with two Marines in there. But we had a number of battles where we lost a lot of Marines.
But you know, Keith, what I find interesting is the fact that you go in with anger because of the death of your dad. You go through this war and there's death all around you. And yet you still fought for freedom. You're still Marine proud that you're able to free another country. You keep America safe. And so, you know, as we celebrate tomorrow, it's remember the freedom that we have. We have veterans all around us. You know, it's unfortunate, Keith, that Vietnam veterans did not receive the welcome as those of us who came from Iraq, and was appreciated for that. And you know, I'm just happy that you and I are brothers, that we are serving our country to provide the freedom that we have. And we hate to leave it on a cliffhanger, but Keith is going to come back for part 2, because I think there's a remarkable story that has to be had, because you look at where he came from, the story of anger, and it ends up totally different than what you expected. And so until next time, take care and God bless.
Thank you for tuning in to today's episode on Coach Soul. As we wrap up, we want to remind our listeners of a few key points. This podcast is for informational purposes only and does not substitute professional medical advice, diagnosis, or treatment. The content shared here is based on professional opinion but may not apply to everyone's situation. Always consult with a qualified healthcare provider before making changes to your mental health care. If you're in a crisis, please seek immediate professional help or contact a crisis hotline. Listening to this podcast does not create a therapist-client relationship. For personal advice, please consult with your licensed mental health professional in your area. Remember, your mental health journey is unique. While we hope this information is helpful, it is crucial to work directly with the qualified personnel for your specific needs. Thank you again for tuning in to Coach Soul, and we'll see you next time.